What's up, everyone? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Carnage. My friend, we are officially in the holiday season, 1 week post Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Fa la
Jeff,
la 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 la.
we haven't
No,
talked since Thanksgiving. So how was your Thanksgiving? Was it nice?
it was quiet.
Okay.
It was quiet. One thing I appreciate that I have impressed on Janice's girls is that they love Christmas, and I love that they love Christmas. But I have implored them for the last 3 years. It is not okay to watch Christmas movies or listen to Christmas music until after Thanksgiving dinner has been had. You give Thanksgiving the proper respect it deserves.
Wow. Okay. I'm only laughing because Noreen, she was recuperating from her shoulder surgery. And
Uh-huh.
while she was kind of medicated and sleeping in and out and resting, she was notoriously bad about watching every not grade A movie that was on Netflix that was a Christmas rom-com.
Oh.
And Netflix has, I don't know what business they've gotten into, but there are so many Christmas rom-coms now on Netflix that you could spend a week watching the Christmas rom-coms on Netflix and not see all of them.
Wow.
And that was started before Thanksgiving. So I'm only chuckling at your rule because while I totally appreciate the rule, I'm finding that Netflix does not appreciate your rule.
Well, and I get it's on the year round, but I have to laugh at that too because we came home and, by that time, the football games were terrible. I could care less about the Cowboys game on Christmas Day. I had no desire to watch the 49ers and Seahawks, so we started watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and that parlayed into
Yeah.
The Grinch, and then finally the Muppet Christmas Carol, just to kind of knock some of my traditional ones out. But it was funny because Friday morning, like I got everybody up and running and said, "You guys just need to shower because it's been a few days. You guys have been off school all week." And within 10 minutes of the oldest one it being in the bathroom, she's blaring Christmas music,
Wow.
like old style,
Yep.
And she got out of the shower. She walked in to get breakfast, and I kind of looked at her. She goes, "You said," and she got me on this one, "no Christmas music until after Thanksgiving dinner," and that was yesterday. And I was like, you know what? You're
You know what?
absolutely
You know
right.
what? You can't argue with logic.
I cannot argue with that. But the youngest one, her birthday was this past weekend, and Grandma got her an Echo, an Alexa Echo.
Oh, nice.
No, no,
Wait, what
because
happened?
you have the ability to drop into other Echoes, Alexas in our house. So she's trying to talk to her mom, and the whole house is hearing it.
Oh.
So we're gonna have to shut that down. But
Oh, that's good, man. That's funny.
then she
Oh.
decided to put the Mariah Carey Christmas song on repeat.
Oh,
And for an hour Sunday morning, she sat in her uh, in the little swings she has in her room, singing the Mariah Carey Christmas song with Mariah Carey for an hour. And I have to admit, I was about to go crazy.
yeah. No, that hearing it once a year, okay, I can handle it. Hearing it on the radio a lot during once a year, it's starting to get to me. Hearing it in 1 hour straight, where that was the only song you heard,
Yeah,
that could
yeah.
be like a new form for the CIA to have, um,
Oh
as a
yeah.
torture mechanism.
Well, I take it back. It was Mariah Carey and the Kelly Clarkson one. So
Oh, I've never
there
heard the
was variety.
Clarkson.
Yeah, you know what? You don't have to. I've heard enough for the both of us for the rest of our natural lives.
Well,
So
if we wanted to stop the podcast and let you sing to the audience a little bit of the Kelly Clarkson, I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
no, I'm good. I'm good. That's fine. It's fine.
Well,
So
you're
yeah,
not.
Christmas season is upon us.
Yeah, you're not going to believe me though, buddy. So
Yeah.
my work, I'm more of a programmer now at my work for in the medical industry, but we recently had a hack
Uh huh.
at the clinic that we were at, where I give a lot of props to the IT group, the engineers and the database administrators that literally they found the hack. Some stupid employee downloaded a file and gave the hackers access, and when they tried to start encrypting our data, we found it right away because of other security measures, and we pulled the plug of the whole entire system, shut down the entire system. Well, that was 2 weeks ago, and we're just now starting to get out of the mess that we were in because of that,
Yeah.
issue. But what I've noticed that is kind of, it's kind of hard, but also kind of interesting is that my job as it was after they, pulled the plug on the whole system, I can no longer program in my software. They have made that a very low priority on the task list to get put back into place. They haven't created the environment again to even do what I normally do. So as a
Yeah.
result, I've had to go time warp machine back 13 years to my early days in IT when I was desktop support.
Whew.
And I'm a little out of practice, man. I mean, I know NextGen a lot of the software that we use. I know it pretty well, but I am way out of practice on doing password resets and helping people get their Active Directory passwords reset. And so I've had to go back to old school, baby.
Man, so you're help desk jockeying, huh?
It was kind of a nice time warp though, because it brought me back to that time when
Simpler
I
times.
first started in IT and I didn't know anything about anything, and just everything is brand new. Everything is brand
Yeah.
new. Well, 13 years ago it was brand new, and 13 years later it's not completely brand new, but it's still new enough where I'm like trying to catch up of where I've gone away from over the last, 13 years.
Yeah, man. There's something about going back to simpler times. Having to go back to your roots, it kind of resets where you're at professionally too. If you got to do it for a little while, it makes you appreciate where you've been and where you're going. I had that opportunity during the pandemic, and
Oh,
I appreciate, yeah, I appreciate now more so than ever what I do because I had to go back to my roots when we really couldn't do anything for 6 months.
okay. And
So
what did that look like for you?
a lot of trying to do that. It was more back to employee relations at that point for me, where it was trying to do employee appreciation things like boots on the ground, like setting up um, little just like appreciation events and tabletop stuff for them to feel appreciated during the pandemic when the whole world was crashing on the healthcare system.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Little bit different scale to working with the public, but yeah, I mean,
yeah, this
just
is kind of the
back to
same
like some of
thing
those
where you
basic
go
things.
back to the basics. I mean, setting up computers and, like you said, talking with people who are, just as frustrated as you are, but they need help getting back on the system. And yeah, I haven't done this in a really long time.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about that. If the world were to have one of those EMP or like a Walking Dead situation where the world goes back to just fires and bare minimum stuff, and you have to be a hunter gatherer or a protector, um, it really makes you look at like what kind of skills do I have to survive in that kind of environment if it ever came down to it.
Yeah, and
Because depending on which news station you listen to, we are always one day away from that.
okay, yeah, yeah, there you go. So you're in the prep mode.
Yeah,
You're in
yeah,
the prep
the
mode.
doomsday prep mode. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
reading a book recently that was called the basically Survival Bible, and
Uh,
the Survival Bible basically it's just a small little book, but it's kind of like how to start a fire, how to create shelter out of leaves and stuff, how to distill water, just kind of basic things that are out there to kind of help you survive if you didn't have the amenities of, electricity and power and all the things that we take for granted. And it is based on a simpler time. Like you do it's kind of like de-evolution, right? You retract to a simpler state.
yeah, yeah. Some of it sounds fun. Don't get me wrong, but then there's other parts of like, you know what? If there's no air conditioning, I'm not going to be okay with that. I mean, it sounds funny to say when you say it out loud like that, but we live in Arizona, so at a certain point we have to start migrating if that scenario ever happened. Because once summer hits, there's no way in hell I'm staying in the desert.
Well, now, okay, so here's one thing to consider though. How much of
Hmm.
the temperature in Phoenix or in Arizona in general is based on car emissions and, asphalt and people out and about and doing things that if there was no power, if there was everything, if all that was out of alignment, maybe things would cool off.
Well, maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe Death Valley would suddenly, drop in temperature too. But seeing that's a booming mecca with no cars and very little roads. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. Well, I was reading a book about Warren Buffett recently, and
Hmm.
by the way, just on a side note, his partner Charlie Munger died today at 99.
Oh,
11/28/2023 passed away. He was 99 years old. He'd been a business partner since the 60s. So what are we, 65 years? He's been the business partner of Warren Buffett. 99, he died today. So homage to Charlie Munger. Total side note, but I thought I would reference it for the people who might follow investing. Getting back though, someone asked Warren Buffett, what do you like most about your life? And he said, my most favorite time as an investor was when I was just starting out,
yeah,
and I would analyze a stock and I would buy it, and hold it for 9 months. And I didn't have the millions that I have today, and I didn't have, the billions that I have today. But it was back then in that very beginning when, making $1,000 was all the money in the world. And
yeah,
I feel like it's the same way that I'm experiencing now. It's like, yeah, do I like this kind of work? No, but it's a reminder that, man, this is where I started when I knew nothing.
yeah. Right.
It's like there is something to be said about going back to those roots and finding that joy again about I'm doing something I've never done before and it's all exciting and someone like Warren Buffett relishes the times when he was doing it for the passion of making money, and now they say now he makes $220 million a day.
Oh, well, that's nice.
You know what I
Good
mean?
for him.
Like, so, but think about that. Like, he should have everything, right? But he says, man, if I could go back 50 years and start over, I totally would.
You know why? And I'm going to tell you why. Because it was fun, and you don't realize how much fun you're having trying to make it until you've made it, and then you realize, God bless, man, this was it was so much more fun back then because I was trying to figure it out and I had more freedom. Because as you elevate in life, you lose certain freedoms because of status. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and when I say status, it's not like social status or eliteness. It's like you move up in certain companies, like you become a supervisor, manager, director, so on and so forth. You can't do some of the things you were able to do when you were younger because more is expected of you um, at that time. And I'm in a very interesting spot in my company now because I basically have grown up there. Spent the last 14 years working there, and everyone that was in charge when I originally got hired knew me when I was a kid. So I never got the chance to really grow. Like I grew, but I always had that glass ceiling because I was always the kid. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
and now we have almost an entirely new administration, and I'm not the kid anymore. I'm now someone that I at least hope they think they can rely on and give me different responsibilities and have me go out and do the things that, prior leadership teams wouldn't have done because they still, saw me as a kid who was putting on health fairs way back in the day. So, it's nice to have that new recognition from someone else, but man, there are days where I'm like, you know what? I just want to go set up tables, put out tablecloths, and let people just have a health fair. It'd be so much easier. It
Well,
was so much more fun back then.
yeah. I think one of the things that I'm noticing too is in my current role, not the role that I'm assuming for this hack, but before, I was on a team, but I was kind of isolated in the sense of I was the only person that did what that I do. So no one else really knows or participates in what I do. And so everyone else is really close knit because they do the same kind of functions and they talk a lot and you know, and I wasn't in that role. There's something isolating when you kind of get to a higher level
Yeah.
than the majority of everyone else. Everyone else that, they hang out together after work and they do a lot of things. Well, when you move up, you lose that camaraderie with that bigger group of people.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that I'm an outsider. I'm kind of like the outsider. Now they've been, it's not like they don't talk to me or they don't interact with me, but
But
you
it's not the
realize
same.
that what I do is so specialized. They don't understand what I do. And so, they don't participate other than to ask me questions if they have a question that I can answer.
Yeah, I was in a very similar situation for a very long time, and over this last year, as I've transitioned to the current role I have now, I'm isolated from just about everybody. I'm in a very public position, but unless I'm dealing with someone in the public, I'm basically by myself in an office by myself. Nobody comes to see me. It's almost like I'm put into a box until I'm needed. Then they open the box and out I go. And it's been an adjustment for me because I used to be, have people around me that I was like that with for the most part, and now it's completely different. So that kind of adjustment, it's a complete mental shift, and it's not easy if you're a social person.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one thing I really respect about Noreen, and I don't really know how she handles it, but she makes it a priority not to get too connected to people who are underneath her.
Yeah,
She's cordial, she's social to an extent, but she never gets too close. She never gets like
yeah,
no
arm's
one
length.
under like I think that Tanya and Dave. Tanya's probably the only person that we hang out with on a personal level, and it's mainly because we've known them long before Tanya and Noreen had the jobs that where they work. But even
Yeah.
to that level, Tanya and Noreen just themselves know that there's a separation, and they don't use their personal time to talk about things that there's a separation there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And it's like you said, it's because there's a prior personal connection. But aside from that, it's arm's length, and that's probably the best way to do it. It's business is business, and sometimes people can't make that separation.
Do you think that if Warren or if Elon Musk lost every dollar and had to start over, do you think
Yeah,
that he would get not maybe not the exact same success, but do you think that he would rebuild it and create another fortune?
that's a great question. I often wonder that about reality stars. I guess you could put the Kardashians in the same bucket. If you took everything away from them, would they still be able to create the same kind of financial success and fame that they've built for themselves? And I don't know that answer. I would say probably. I mean, if you just take it away from them, they still have that knowledge base of how to get people interested in investing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for Elon Musk, he would lose 15 years, right? So
Yeah.
he would have to still do it in a timely manner. But some people just have the foresight that the rest of us don't. I'm
Right.
reading the biography of Andrew Carnegie, who they estimate that if they would have taken his net worth back in 1901 and translated it to now, he'd be worth about 400 to 500 billion dollars.
You talk about Andrew Carnegie,
Carnegie, yeah,
the guy that's named after Carnegie Hall.
yeah, Carnegie, but it doesn't matter how you pronounce the name. But that same guy, that if you took the wealth that he had in 1901 and transitioned it to today's wealth, it'd be about 400 to 500 billion. But
Wow.
one of the things you wonder is that the guy didn't he started working at 13. He never got a formal education,
Yeah.
and he just kind of built it up. But at some point he was working for railroads, and
Yeah.
he realized that during the Civil War, one of the big things that was happening is a lot of these bridges were being destroyed, and the trains could no longer be supported by a wood bridge. So he decided that through the railroad company that he was working for to develop an ironworks that would build iron bridges. And then he took that foresight and said, you know what? I think I'm just going to leave railroads altogether and only make iron bridges, which then led to, well, now I can make steel bridges. And he basically built by having a foresight that no one else saw, right? Because, I mean,
Yeah.
anyone could have developed the idea of making iron bridges, but he was the one that transitioned it into, the largest company in America at the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so like Elon Musk has a vision like that. Bill Gates has a vision like that. Maybe you could even argue Warren Buffett has a vision like that. Those people probably could lose everything and regenerate because they see things that the rest of us don't see.
Yeah. And I think, well, they're also provided opportunities through owning successful businesses though too. And I think that allows them to transition into new ventures, as it were. It's not so much that, and Andrew Carnegie left the iron game and went to the steel game. He got the knowledge base and probably the investor base to make that transition a whole lot easier than if he just walked off the street at 20 years old saying, I've been building wooden bridges for railroads. I want to do this.
Yeah, yeah, and literally he started out as a messenger boy. I mean, truly, that's he was basically taking wire messages and delivering them. And then one day someone got sick and he said, "Hey, I can make the messages." He got his opportunity, seized the opportunity, and then he got good at delivering the messages and he got certified as a messenger, for the telegraphs. Well, then someone from a big railroad said, "I like the way you take your notes. You want to be my private secretary?" And he took that opportunity. So a lot of people could have done that. He did it, right? Some people talk about doing it. Some people, never do it. So there are some people I think you could lose everything and regenerate your wealth.
Yeah, that goes back to something I talk to a lot of people about in the hospital. It's always take the opportunity to say yes. You never know what it might lead to. If someone asks you to, if someone in a higher up asks you to do a different job, yeah, man, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. Yeah, if it works, great. If it doesn't, just go back to what I'm doing. It's that opportunity to grow and see where it takes you, because we don't always end up right where we want to be with our professions, but we usually end up where we need to be because of the way our career paths twist and turn.
Hey, my opportunity to get into IT was solely because an opportunity came up that frankly, had I been 3 weeks later, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity.
Yeah.
That 3 weeks was probably the difference between me having the life I have now and me having to be on a totally different path. And that's not to say I might not have been successful, but it sure wouldn't be in IT.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I think back on those days, like you just said it best. I mean, the doors of opportunity are always opening. Some
Yeah.
people just, and it's not against those people, just some people don't have the ability to see the doors opening.
Well, you have to want the ability to go through the door too.
Expound on that. That's an interesting point. Expound on that a little bit.
I've heard so many people just through the different professions I interact with, as leadership changes, and like I said, I always take the opportunity to say, yeah, man, I'll do that, or let me help you figure that out, because relationships open those doors for you. And so many times I hear people say, no, man, I don't want to meet these new leaders. I just want to fly under the radar. I just want to fly under the radar. I don't want to meet anybody. I just want to do my job and go home. And that's fine to an extent. But I am of the opinion that if new leadership comes in your business, it doesn't matter what your business is, if new leadership comes in and you're just flying under the radar, you're not trying to at least introduce yourself and let them know who you are, I think you put yourself in almost a line of professional danger, because if the business isn't working on the level the new leadership wants it to and they have to make cuts, they're going to make cuts on people generally who they don't associate anything with because they just never met them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, that there's that great story in Matthew McConaughey's book where he talks about how they were trying to find actors to play parts in the movie A Time to Kill,
Yeah.
and he wasn't even considered for the main part, but he saw the opportunity that, hey, I want the main part. So he said something and they liked, oh, yeah, that's great. You'd be great for that part. and that launched his career. But
Yeah.
you're right. I just want to play the part I'm going to be. And I just, I'm fine with that. And he would have lost out on his career
And
path
you and that's
by
fine.
not having the recognition in himself to ask, to go through the door, to take the opportunity to expound yourself. Yeah.
And I think that goes so much more into just believing in yourself, because I get that. Some people, this is what I'm doing until I retire. I got 5 years left. I just want to go. I just want to be left alone. That mentality, I understand. I get that. But if you're, in the young or in the middle of your career, I think you got to take the opportunity, even if it's just a 5-minute conversation. You don't know where that leads down the road. You just having that opportunity to say, yeah, man, I can do that. Let me help you figure that out. Or if you want someone to help get that project going with, I'm here. I think that goes a lot farther in life than just to see where your life could go versus, nah, man, I'm cool. Don't worry about it. I don't want to meet that person because if they know me, then they might ask more of me. And that's kind of a cop out.
Well, and it kind of leads back to what we started with, right? I mean, there are some people that said, "Hey, I'm a programmer. I'm not going to go down and do, this menial work. I've moved
Yeah.
up. I'm not going to do this menial work." And, my thought is that since I've started being more actively involved, not only am I getting more recognition from my coworkers who I just never have to deal with because I'm kind of in a different realm, but we have every leader in that building right now watching, interacting. And you're right. That 5 minutes that I don't think is a big deal might be a huge deal to the person who's watching, saying, "Hey, this Jason guy, who is this? I mean, I never deal with them." Right.
That's something I did during the pandemic that and I'm not trying to toot my own horn as we wrap up the show today, but we were going through the PPE in the hospital very fast. So we had to find people to go down into the laundromat of the hospital and fold the PPE. So I went down there for hours at a time during the week, my own time most of the time, and I would sit there and I would fold the PPE. I would fold the protective gowns everybody had to wear as they came out of the dryers, and that got noticed because I didn't do it because I was asked. I did it because it was the right thing to do. They needed help. I could help. And the right people in leadership saw that. And I think that's really kind of where it helped get me where I am today. And you become a man of the people at that point, inadvertently, you know?
Well, yeah, and I think that when you get recognized for that, sometimes that recognition, they don't even have it in their mind that that would be a role for you, but they say, you know what, like for your example's perfect. When a new role comes available, and they think, who do I need? Who do we have that I can fill this new kind of role with? They
Yeah.
remember you. They remember that person.
Yeah. I mean, because
And
the
then they
job's got
say,
to get
"Hey,
done.
by the way, you want this new job?" And then everyone asks, "Well, geez, person, how did you get that job? How did you get that? How are you lucky enough to get that job?" A lot of people don't realize that's not luck. That's
Yeah.
setting a foundation of planting a seed of a tree that you may not see the tree for 5 years. And then all of a sudden, boom, there you go. And people count it as luck. It's not luck. It's you've nurtured that for years and years and years. So.
And there's a different, and sometimes you just got to do what's right. You do your job and you be polite, but you don't be afraid to go introduce yourself to the person above you, or above your boss's boss, because you
Right.
never know where that connection might lead. And at the end of the day, everybody puts their pants on the same way, one leg at a time. And we're no different once we walk out out of that building.
Well, and if you have a choice between working with a person who's gung ho about starting up and doing whatever it takes and, doing the jobs that may be beneath them, or the person that says, screw this, I'm not doing it because that's below me, or, they're hard to work with. I mean, both those stories plant a seed in someone's head.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the seed for the other person is don't work with them as much as you can possibly not work with them. Or, hey, let's give them an opportunity to move up because they've got the attitude that I want to have as an employee.
Exactly. When you're working with people, you want to see, hey, who's willing to go put themselves out there versus who's trying to hide.
Exactly. So anyways, there we go. That's my nut and bolt. I'm showing myself off because I haven't done this job in a long time, but I'm enthusiastic. So hopefully I
Well, hey,
become a
man,
multimillionaire now.
I'm glad you got to go back to your roots and appreciate where you're at now. So
There we go.
as we wrap up today's show, have you ever had to go back to where you began in your job and help out and realize that how far you've come? We want to hear about it. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have any questions about your new printer, how to install it, how to hook up the Wi-Fi, hit up our EP Tom at liquid_EP on Twitter and the Instagram.
Wow. Can't believe it's by the time we get this, it's the end of November. Woo! Man, this year's gone, baby.
Right. It'll be summertime before we know it.
Exactly.
That being said, Jason, take us home.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never